Hello and welcome. And today we are going to talk about coral reefs, which are a very magnificent and a very important part of underwater ecosystem. So corals are marine invertebrates. Invertebrates are those animals who do not have any backbone, and they belong to the class Anthozoa of phylums Cnidaria. Now, what is a Cnidaria? Cnidaria are those marine animals which feed on pests, so they can catch their pests. Around 11,000 species of aquatic animals are found in freshwater and marine environment which belong to the category of Cnidaria. Corals are actually marine animals which join together and they form compact colonies, and they also inhabit in the tropical oceans which are very warm and very suitable for their production, and they secrete calcium carbonate from their bodies which form hard skeleton. So corals are extremely important because they balance the ecosystem and they protect the coastlines from heavy storms and a lot of erosion, and they provide also job opportunities for the people because a lot of tourists, they basically visit these places to see these corals, and lots of recreation are being set for them for the entertainment, and thus corals are really very important. Corals are a very important source of food as well as medicines. Several antiviral drugs like ARA-A, AZT, an anti-cancer agent ARA-C has been developed from the sponges or the corals of the Caribbean reef. And modern medicines and surgeons are using different surgical replacement of bone from the corals, and they also use it as a calcium supplement, and also corals are used to treat heart diseases. So now the question arises, is coral a fish? No, it is not exactly a fish, neither it is a plant, because they do not make their own food. They catch their food or they catch their prey, and they are basically animals which are made up of thousands of polyps. So polyps are very colorful and magnificent organisms which join together and cement themselves, and they form this compact coral. The next question is, can you eat corals? So you can't eat corals because they're extremely hard as a rock, and if you eat them, they're really bad for your teeth, for your esophagus, as well as for your digestive system. So it is not edible at all. So corals are basically sessile creatures. That means they're very immobile, they cannot move, they cluster together, they are compact, they are stationed at a particular position. And what do they do to reproduce? They basically release sperms and eggs into the water to create baby corals. So there are majorly three types of coral reefs: fringing reef, barrier reef, as well as atolls. Now the fringing reefs are the most common amongst all the other coral reefs. They are basically grown along the coastlines and around the islands and the coastal margins, and they basically are very common grounds for different kinds of fishes like pennant fish, pyramid, millet seed, butterfish. All of these different kinds of fishes grow here and live here. The next type is the barrier reef, like the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, and they are really the largest reefs of the world. They are the large continuous reefs which are separated from the mainland by a lagoon. We need to know what is a lagoon. So a lagoon is a very shallow body of water which is separated from a larger body or an ocean by a narrow landform. Another type of coral reefs are the atolls. So the atolls are basically ring-shaped coral reefs which are located near the sea surface. So they are basically floating islands. Okay, their shape is ring-shaped because they grow along the borders of the islands. Now the islands can be underwater islands or they can be inactive volcanoes which are no more erupting. Okay, so these atolls are mostly uninhabited places. Despite the importance of coral reefs that we have in the ecosystem, people are basically misusing them, and because of human activities, the water is actually warming up. Pollution is creating a rise in the temperature, and ocean acidification, as well as overfishing and different kinds of physical destruction like killing of coral reefs, they all are causing a major depletion of the coral reefs. So the World Ocean Day is celebrated on June 8th every year to basically protect the marine animals and the coral reefs, and to find out different ways and conventions are being held to basically protect them. Now there's a term called coral reef bleaching. So basically a healthy coral is very colorful. That is why those places which have got coral reefs are really very colorful. But basically, the corals have a very low temperature tolerance. They cannot live in high temperatures. So, if because of global warming, if the temperatures increase in a particular place, then what happens is that there are symbiotic algae which lives inside them, which provide them with food. They come out and they basically leave the these algae leave the coral becomes basically white in color, from a colorful coral to a white coral, and lose their food sources and they die. Scientists have also predicted that 90% of the global coral reefs will experience severe bleaching by 2055. As the sea is rising because of the glacial melting, the corals they move into the deeper water and they receive very less sunlight, which is very important source of food for them. So that is why they are not growing so rapidly. The growth of corals have almost stopped. So heavy storms, cyclones, hurricanes, typhoons, they all damage coral reefs to a great extent. That is why coral reefs are suffering so much these days. So let's talk about some interesting fact. Now scientists have discovered that there has been a 4,000-foot coral reef in the middle of the Australian desert in the Nullarbor Plain in southern Australia, which is believed to have been there 14 million years ago, and it was submerged under a tropical ocean. So now it has been found, and this actually shows that corals have been suffering and they have been depleting over the years. Thanks for visiting this channel, and if you want to share any fact, please do so, and also subscribe to my channel and like if you really find this video very interesting.